We routinely break policies, and we often turn a blind eye to things that we should not. Hi, I'm Angela Murray, SHRM SCP, SPHR, and your favorite HR exam coach. I was talking to an acquaintance recently, and he was telling me about his work environment. And there was one sentence that he said that really caught my attention, and that was, "I wish I had known before I took the job." That stood out to me because the truth of the matter is we often do have some inclination before we enter into unhealthy work environments, but oftentimes we choose to frame it in a way that supports us moving ahead for whatever reason. So today I'm going to give you 5 red flags that you should not ignore. Even if that means you just do a little bit more research, don't ignore them. Let's get started. Now, I know on the surface, we're a family sounds like a nice sentiment, but this is usually code for we routinely break policies and we often turn a blind eye to things that we should not. Work is a business. They are not your family. Your family has certain liberties that don't belong in the workplace. So no matter how you look at it, work is a transaction. You are trading your time and your skill and your knowledge for money. Most of the things we do for our family is purely out of love, and the expectations are completely different. The family dynamic can never be recreated at work, nor should it be. And a company that hails that as a principle is sometimes really asking employees for lenience and grace in situations where lenience and grace should not be given. Don't fall for it. The next red flag is when the HR function is being led by anyone other than an HR employee. A lot of companies have the entire HR function reporting into a CFO or an operations manager who has no background in HR. This will not work. People who do not have a background in HR greatly underestimate the importance of HR, and they often misjudge the complexity of the function. A chief financial officer is just that, a financial officer. And first and foremost, they are going to support the business's finances, and HR will always be secondary. It reminds me of like those high school coaches who double as the health teacher. It sounds like a good idea, but you know that high school coach is there first and foremost to win football games. The HR function needs to be headed by an HR employee. That HR leader might report into a CEO or an operations manager, but the function as a whole needs to have a CHRO or some other HR head as the leader of the function. It is important that the leader has an HR background. The next red flag is when you're told during the interview, you're going to have to wear a lot of hats. That usually means we're going to pay you for one job and expect you to do 10. The HR function can sometimes become a catch-all when employees don't understand the importance of the HR function. Sometimes we are expected to be the planners and the travel agents and the runners or anything else that doesn't fit nice and neat with a bow into any of the other functions. Any task that can't be identified as a finance task or an IT task somehow ends up as an HR task. That is often an indicator that HR is not being used in its full strategic capacity, and that can be very frustrating as an HR professional. The next HR red flag to look out for is a company that has had high turnover in the HR position. This is the kind of information that you need to get up front. I have never gone to an interview without asking how many times has this position been filled in the last 3 years. Because if it's more than 2, I'm out of there. Something is wrong, and it doesn't matter whether the turnover is voluntary or involuntary. Something is wrong, and I do not want to stick around and find out what it is. Now, this next one might be a little bit controversial, but hear me out. A huge red flag for me is when an organization has more than 50 employees and they've been operating without an HR function up until that point. I need to understand why you are just deciding it is important to bring in HR. For me, when an organization has 25 to 30 employees, it should be important to them to take care of the employees and to make sure that they are following the labor specific laws and they are managing employee relations and they are ensuring employee safety. All of the things that the HR function is responsible for. And those things are really just the tip of the iceberg. Who is responsible for succession planning? Who is aligning the culture? So a lot of time, this is another action that signals that the employer doesn't understand the importance of the HR function, or they don't value the input of HR. And after all these years, HR professionals are tired of fighting for our seat at the table. At this point in my career, I am not joining an organization where I have to try to get leaders to understand the importance of HR. So depending on where you are in your career, this might be a huge red flag that signals that you are in for a fight. And who wants to fight? I don't have time for that. So if I am interviewing with a company and they have 50, 65, 100 employees, and I am the first HR professional, I'm no longer interested.